Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me say thank you to each of the distinguished witnesses for being here, for being part of this hearing. I appreciate your testimony and wisdom and judgment. Judge Mukasey, let me start with you. You have served as a federal judge. You have served as U.S. Attorney General, as has Mr. Barr, and you have built a long and distinguished career of public service. Can you share for this committee, in your judgment, the importance of rule of law and the importance of having an Attorney General who is faithful to enforcing the law and Constitution regardless of party, regardless of partisan interest?
It's really the only guarantee that we have, because this country is defined by and is constituted by a law, the Constitution. It's not based on land, it's not based on blood, it's based on a law. It all started with a law. And that's what we've built this society on, the notion that you can have a society that operates fairly, in which neutral principles, neutrally applied, allow people to reach their maximum potential. If that's ever abandoned, if it's ever deviated from, if it's ever perceived to be deviated from, then we're lost. Then we have nothing to define us because we're defined by a law.
Now, you've testified today that you know that Mr. Barr is a, quote, superbly qualified nominee, that he has good judgment, and just importantly, that he has the will to exercise that judgment despite pressure from any source. Can you share with the committee what, in your professional or personal experience, gives you confidence that Mr. Barr will once again well and ably carry out the responsibility of Attorney General of the United States?
Well, as I mentioned, he has had a past history of doing that when he served as Attorney General, notwithstanding that there was a desired result from the White House, and he kind of deflected it and, as it were, laughed it off. He is somebody who has testified here that, in view of the fact that most of his career is in the rearview mirror, he doesn't really have to concern himself with the possible negative consequences of resisting pressure from an administration. So that's an additional guarantee. But I think the person himself and who he's been over the years consistently really speaks to that. And it's not just a question of his having nothing to lose. I think that is the way he's constituted. As Professor Turley said, he's a law nerd, meaning he is devoted in a way that very few people are to what defines this country, and that's what he enjoys. That's his occupation and his preoccupation, and that is, I think, an excellent guarantee for the way he's going to approach the job.
Well, this committee in particular, I think you will find no criticism for being a law nerd. We tend to attract more than a few of them. Mr. Thompson, you likewise have a long, distinguished, honorable career, marred only by briefly being my boss at the Department of Justice, and I apologize for all of my errant mistakes since that time. Let me ask you the same question I asked Judge Mukasey, which is, in your professional and personal career interactions with Mr. Barr, what gives you confidence that he will once again ably carry out the role of Attorney General?
Thank you, Senator, and I'm very proud to have you as one of my colleagues and former alums from the Deputy Attorney General's office. You've certainly acquitted yourself well. Bill Barr has a long history in the Department of Justice. As I said in my opening statement, he has a great love for the department. I think that may be one of the reasons he wants to return to public service. He has great fidelity to the department. But in addition to some of the sort of sterile constitutional questions that we've been discussing this morning, important but still sterile in my view, he understands the traditions of the Department of Justice. He respects the traditions of the Department of Justice. He knows the impact that his decisions will have on the men and women who are in the department, who are in the investigative agencies. And there are reasons for these policies. There are good reasons for these traditions, not the least important of which is public perception that justice in this country, investigative decisions in this country are carried out fairly, without fear or favor of what your status is in society, and most importantly, without political considerations. He understands this. I think this makes him superbly qualified to be, again, the Attorney General of the United States.
Thank you. Ms. Carey, you have worked with Mr. Barr some 2 decades. One of the things you testified about was Mr. Barr's busy schedule, long travel hours, and yet in the midst of it all, juggling to find time to be a husband and a dad to his 3 daughters. As the father of daughters myself, I know how difficult that can be with public life. Can you share with the committee some of what you saw firsthand about how he managed to carry out his responsibilities and still be there for his daughters?
Yeah, he was a tremendous father, as we saw yesterday, a grandfather. And as I said in my testimony, the fact that all 3 of his daughters went into the law is huge. My husband is hoping that our daughters do not go into the law because he thinks it's becoming an increasingly difficult profession. But to your question about his demeanor and the way he conducts himself, which I think is an example to his daughters, we were in Houston, and we were there for some events, and as he was hearing from all these victims of crime and people talking about how high the violent crime rate had gotten, can he please do something to help, he spontaneously turned around to me and said, "What do you say we stop by the Harris County Jail?" And it was not on the agenda at all. For security reasons, you would never tip off that the Attorney General was going to a prison. And the FBI basically kind of rang the doorbell for the prison and said, "We're here," and did an unannounced visit to the prison. And the Attorney General, the prisoners did not know who he was. Obviously, we didn't announce it. He went around asking these guys what their lives were like, what they do to get in here, what's for lunch today, where do you exercise? And as much of a law nerd as he is, this was a very compassionate side of him. He was not showboating. There was no press involved. And to me, it showed the way he could sort of shoehorn in a quick visit so that he could get back and see his family, but yet learn about what people's lives were like, see the impact, not just of the violent crime on the victims, but also on proposed reforms on the people who are actually in the prisons. And I would be willing to bet there are not a lot of attorneys general, present company probably accepted, who have been inside a cell block like that on an unannounced thing so that he could get back to his family, but also continue to learn the impact of the policies in a very real way.
Thank you for sharing that wonderful story. And I will say his grandson, Liam, has become a internet sensation.
Oh, you stole the show.
Not seen since John Roberts' son Jack did Spider-Man at his announcement, and he too had a moment of glory. But
right.
Thank you to each of you.